Come on, if that doesn't get you pumped up, nothing will. It is Open Mat Live from the weigh-ins. Whittaker versus Till going down in the early hours of Sunday morning on BT Sport. This is the finale to this edition of Fight Island. I'm Adam Catterall. As you can see, Nick Peake's alongside me. And over in Abu Dhabi, look who managed to get himself on a plane. Look at him over there enjoying himself.
Plane? They put me on a boat.
The main man, Dan Hardy, alongside us as well. For this, what we're going to be bringing you over the next, well, it's scheduled for a couple of hours, but hopefully everybody will be on weight and through very, very quickly so we can keep it nice and action-packed for you. Lots of talking points as well from quite a historic night, boys, because this is the first time, if everything goes to plan, that we're going to see 15 fights on a fight card since 1994 UFC 2. Blooming heck. History in the making, Dan.
It's crazy. As they kept adding fights to this card, I started thinking to myself, they're concerned. They think people are going to start dropping off this. That was my thought. I thought they were stacking this card and we were going to end up with 12 fights and we were going to lose a few. But the fact that this card stayed together and they keep adding more fights. I mean, Kazmat against Reece McKee. Goosebumps on my skin. I can't wait.
Nick, talk to me about that kid's attitude, man, because that's another record breaker as well.
Yeah.
Because if he does make the walk, and fingers crossed, he hits weight, Reece hits weight, and they all make that walk tomorrow night. 10-day turnaround in modern UFC talk. That's a brand spanking new record, and you've got to commend the kid's attitude.
Absolutely, and it's all about taking these opportunities, isn't it? When an opportunity comes during the pandemic, you're thrown into Fight Island, you make your debut, you've had less than 10 professional fights. You go in there and you absolutely beat up an experienced campaigner like John Phillips. No wonder the world went mental. And then that attitude straight afterwards, Dana, I'm staying. Put me in another fight. That was unreal. That was just absolutely mental. And listen, we've got to praise Chimaev because he's everybody's new favourite fighter right now. But let's also praise Reece McKee, who within 7 days got a phone call saying, listen, you won't be defending your Cage Warriors title next. You're getting on a plane tomorrow to go and fight on Fight Island. And of course, he accepts it because he wants the opportunity. And then when he heard the name Chimaev, he went, okay, yeah, get me out there. You've got to respect Reece as well because he's kind of entering the lion's den here. There's so much momentum behind Chimaev that you've got to feel a little bit for Reece. But you know what? He can take that star power if he does the business.
Absolutely. My new favourite meme on the internet this week has been the Chimaev one of Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street. We ain't leaving. That's the attitude that fans love. The hierarchy love it. And fingers crossed we get a sensational fight, which that one will kick off our main card on BT Sport. Dan, you're out in Abu Dhabi. Talk us through it, man, because we've been told by fighters about the protocols and things that people have to go through with quarantine and what have you. You're living it, mate. I can see that you're in your room right now. Tell me everything that's happened since we last spoke and you set off from your house.
Well, so I drove down to the hotel in London, did my test and spent 2 days in quarantine. Then we were whisked away to the airport on a shuttle, taken straight to Plainside. And I was there there were 30 of us on the plane. It was a Boeing 777. We had plenty of space. And the Cowbon team were there. We got the Scandinavians had flown over. Dalby and Paniki and Zad had come over. Jai Herbert was on the plane. It was a good little UFC flight over there. Everyone was relaxed and calm. Everyone had plenty of space to spread out. And then as soon as we arrived, 6:30 in the morning, we arrived. We had another test, 24 hours in quarantine. Another test on Sunday morning. Another 24 hours in quarantine. And then we were brought the pink wristband of freedom, as it's being called. This little house is out of the room. But you know what I'm like. I've been self-isolating for years, so I've not really left the room too much. I've been staying up all night though. That's the thing, because obviously the fights are through the night.
Yeah.
So I actually just woke up. It's nearly 5 o'clock now. I woke up at 4 o'clock, and I went to bed at 8 a.m. this morning, right after my last COVID test. So it's all a bit strange. I mean, I've been hearing people hit pads next door at 4 o'clock in the morning and that kind of stuff. But it's cool. I mean, there's nobody else around aside from UFC people and hotel staff. That we've got cars racing around the track all the time, but they're fighters and staff and stuff. And the beach octagon is awesome. I got down there early morning the other day and had a wander around. It's a very, very cool place. And I think even with this being the first time, I still think people are finding their feet. Next time around, everyone's like, yep, Fight Island. We know what to expect. We're going to make the most of it.
Well, are all the fighters doing a similar thing when it comes to sleep patterns? or are they some sleeping during the day, some just sticking to what they normally know and going to chance it on the night and get up in the middle of the night to fight? Because for those that don't know, local time Abu Dhabi, Darren and Robert, for example, will be in that octagon 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, you know?
Yeah, as far as from what I know, from the people that I've spoken to, everyone's trying to stay up and make it through the night. Obviously, we've had a couple of people that have made the mistake of laying down on their bed to watch the fights, like Paul Felder. Poor old Paul, he was out here for the previous events, and the other night he went out for a meal with the team and then went and laid down on his bed watching fights at 11 o'clock, woke up at 5 a.m. And now he looks like he's been through 3 more rounds of Edson Barbosa. So I'm hoping that the rest of the night. It's very strange. It's very strange getting in bed and, when the sun's blazing outside. But yeah, you've got to do what you've got to do. I want to be fresh and lively for these fights. And as you can see, I'm absolutely wired.
You mentioned the octagon on the beach. Nick, loads of people will have seen Darren and Robert eye to eye, or maybe not eye to eye yesterday as they met up for the official face-offs. We've had a few people obviously getting involved with our social media team, sending questions in and various things like that. What's your take on that meeting yesterday? Did you see anything in it? Do you look into it too much?
Yeah, there's quite a few people have come at me and asked me the same thing. What did you think about Darren's demeanour? He didn't want to necessarily make eye contact with Robert Whittaker. Question here from Matt Hilton online said, I'm interested to hear what you thought of Till's face-off. Seems strange to me. Was there anything in the way he acted, or am I reading too much into it? And obviously, before we get Dan's take on it, because obviously Dan's done many more face-offs than me and knows the art of the face-off, if you like. What I take away is the fact that I've been around Till a lot during this fight camp. I know how well prepared he is. I know how confident he is. And that demeanour to me looked like mind games. It looked like you go in there, you act a little bit sheepish, you don't have eye contact. You let that guy think, okay, he doesn't really want to be here. He's been intimidated by me. He doesn't want to lock eyes with me. And it kind of gives Robert Whittaker almost a false sense of security, I think. And I think when you see Till on the scales today, and certainly when we see him in the octagon in the early hours of Sunday morning, you'll see a completely different demeanour. But that's what I'm taking from it. Obviously, I'm Team Till, but I'm taking from it a little bit of mind games. Let Whittaker think that he doesn't really want to be on Fight Island when actually he absolutely is loving Fight Island.
Dan, it reminded me a little bit of Jose Aldo back in the day. He never used to look in people's eyes, did he? He always used to look down to his feet. So what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I think because if you remember back to the Till face-off with Cowboy, like he was standing over him, looking down on him, and I agree. At psychological games for Cowboy, he knew he had to get inside his head and break him by really fronting up to him. Speaking to both of these guys in the interviews this week, they've had a lot of fun with the banter going back and forth. I mean, obviously Whittaker's not been involved in it too much, but he's certainly been enjoying it. And I think when they came face to face, there was a little bit of a, this is kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? I think there was a bit of that going on. They as they said, we're possibly know where we're possibly friends. We're here to take each other's heads off. But at the same time, that wasn't fight time. There's no point in getting all riled up. And the thing is with the eyes as well. I know some fighters don't look at their opponents and stuff. You remember me? I used to wear contact lenses because I didn't want them to have a good look in my eyes before the fight started. So there's all different kinds of reasons why. But these guys are just having a good time. I think they're kind of laughing at each other and at themselves, to be honest.
Watching them in the octagon on the beach just made me a little bit upset that that's not the real fight octagon, Nick.
Absolutely.
How good would that be? Sharks coming out of the sea, crocodiles all over the place. That's what Fight Island should be, isn't it? Come on, make your ring entrance by a Chinook helicopter. What's the matter with everybody?
I agree. I was looking forward to seeing that moment of someone swim up like Daniel Craig, walk out to the water in just the fight shorts, quick towel dry and straight inside the octagon. That would have been absolutely amazing. But listen,
just a white bikini.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all the whole Fight Island rhetoric got us all so super excited. We were all imagining the most crazy things. But like we were on with Dan the other day, and Dan said a sandstorms just blew through Yas Island, and literally you couldn't see the racetrack from his balcony window. So imagine if that happened during the fight. Obviously, it's just not practical to do it outside. Plus, it's about 200 degrees over there as well. So you just absolutely melt. But listen, it's there for photo opportunities. Do I think they should have threw a couple of palm trees in the actual arena and stuff? Yeah, it would have been nice. But hey ho.
You can see a question there from Craig Ward talking about the trilogy between Shogun and Lil Nog. Listen, it's kind of made for Fight Island, Dan, but I'm a little bit disappointed this is not in front of a packed arena in Brazil. They'd be going wild for those two guys, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. And that's kind of been a bit of a conversation with both of the guys. I mean, Shogun is very much, I've won both fights and I feel very relaxed going into this one because I know what to expect. Whereas Nogueira, he is adamant that this is his last fight and he wants to right this wrong. And I think with that kind of tension coming from him and it being his retirement fight and them being two, legends that have fought, 3 times over 15 years by the end of this weekend. Yeah, it does kind of rob it of an opportunity to have the fans there. And when a fighter's retiring, you always want to see them lay their gloves down in the octagon to a raucous crowd, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, it's a stacked card. Loads of fans are excited about this. I can see the tweets coming in, and do keep them coming in. Keep tweeting BT Sport as this obviously all unfolds. We've got about 4 minutes before we see people starting to hit the scales and make weight. So, boys, I'm going to come to you on this one. You can't pick the main event, Nick. All right, leave this to one side. What's the fight that you're looking forward to the most? I'll come to you first, Dan. What are you thinking?
Mike Grundy against Movsar Evloev.
Ooh.
I mean, you've just got to think. So you've got Movsar's he moved up a weight class to come into the UFC, which allowed him to really start to push pace on his opponents. We also saw improvements in his striking as well, but his Greco-Roman wrestling is his thing. And then you've got Mike Grundy, and we know what he's capable of. We know he's, what is he, a bronze medalist, Commonwealth wrestler.
Yeah.
He's winning the UFC now over Nad Narimani. It was an impressive stoppage. And, I mean, he's just having a good time this week. He's the one that's getting more banter out of Till than Whittaker, to be honest. That's the fight to watch for me.
To be fair, when two wrestlers meet each other, elite wrestlers, normally they just stand in the middle and whack each other to death. No, it should be an absolute cracker. You're right with that one, mate. What are you going for, Nick?
Listen, I'm going to do it, and I hope I'm not going to give it the kiss of death, but I'm going with the 2 heavyweight fights. I'm going with the 2 heavyweight debutants to absolutely light the place up and get us all super excited. I'm going first with Tom Aspinall on the previews. Listen, I've been saying it for weeks. This guy does not move like a heavyweight. He moves like a middleweight. Fast hands, incredible feet. Sparred Tyson Fury in his boxing days. Legit BJJ black belt. Can do it on the ground in a real rich vein of form. Tom Aspinall is the future of the heavyweight division from British perspective. And then onto the main card, my man, isn't it? Alexander Gustafsson moving up to the heavyweight division. Massive opportunity against the former champ Fabrizio Verdum. I'm expecting a statement performance, stoppage performance from both these guys to get us all super excited about the heavyweight division.
Dan, thank you very much for answering the question properly. I asked you for one fight. That was good. Nick just does what he wants, doesn't he? Boys, Jai Herbert, you know what I mean? This debut against Trinaldo to finish, just finish off those prelims. I am so super excited about that. I mean, the kid absolutely stole the show, didn't he, in Cage Warriors? Everybody knows his narrative of giving up his job to join UFC. He was supposed to be involved with the fight with Jacasey, wasn't he, in London, which fell off. He's here now, and I'll tell you something, they mustn't like him because they're giving him an absolute legend, Dan.
Well, the thing is, there's different ways to see this. I mean, we know that Trinaldo's an absolute monster in there. His nickname's Redwood, I think. He's rock hard, he's strong. Everyone talks about how physically imposing he is when he gets his hands on them. But he's in his 40s now. There is going to be a point where there's going to be a drop-off. And I also say this as well. I mean, some poor person had to make their MMA debut against John Jones.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're fighting in your debut. It's better the devil you know sometimes. And what Jai Herbert's got is a whole back catalogue of footage of Trinaldo. He knows exactly what he's expecting from this guy. And 42 years old? He's not going to have changed a great deal in his game. So you can kind of guarantee what you're going to get. Whereas Jai Herbert, he's improving every week from what we're seeing from him. And that jab that he's got and the range advantage that he's got in this fight, if he can get Trinaldo just walking onto that for 15 minutes, he's going to make a mess of him.
Just on Edge, I was looking through some stats the other day, and this is the 5th event in UFC history to feature 3 fighters appearing at the age of 40 or older. Lil Nog, Verdum, and obviously Trinaldo. So, Dan, there's time yet, mate. There's time.
I've been saying this. You've seen my Twitter. The amount of nonsense I've been getting on my Twitter, everyone telling me I'm too old and stuff. There are 4 people on this card that are older than me. This time, absolutely.
Look at him. He's absolutely revved, isn't he? Fight Island's got him by the you-know-what's, Nick.
Oh, wait.
I won't be surprised if he leaves this show in a moment or two, to go and get himself on the scales himself. And by the looks of it, the boys are ready to start
Whittaker
weighing in.
first
Fingers
up.
crossed we can get a little bit on this. Lovely little statement. Like stuff like this. Robert Whittaker, straight out the gate, first on the scales. We'll shut up and we'll hopefully get a little bit of atmosphere from out in Abu Dhabi as Robert hits the scales.
That was quick.
Looks good. Looks focused.
Yeah.
Didn't hear the call there on the microphone. I'm assuming that he's absolutely smashed it. We'll try and get you a little bit of a better feed there, a bit of an audio feed, so people can keep up to date with all the exact weights that are coming in. But like you just said there, Dan, first out the gate, looking sharp, looking focused, making a bit of a statement there.
I tell you what, the time I spoke to him this week, I can't think of a time when I've seen him as comfortable and as confident and relaxed. And I'll be honest, I think carrying the belt and having to defend it against Romero for 10 rounds took it out of him.
Yeah.
He talked like he was burnt out. Who's this? Nathaniel Wood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. I like these guys that are ready. So what normally happens at this weigh-ins, the guys come down, they'll be backstage, and they'll get put in a list, like an order of who steps on the scales first. So like Nathaniel's been down there 15 minutes.
Ready to go.
Looks good as well. Let me see if I can a feed, a Twitter feed where it's telling us the weights as they're coming up.
As you say, it just shows a nice sign of confidence that they're first on the scales, they're ready to go. Like I messaged Colin Heron about 20 minutes ago. He's got no issues with the three lads, so I'm expecting Till to be on the scales pretty soon. Grundy as well, no issues with any of the Cowbon lads. So,
Paul Craig.
Yeah, all the Brits coming down nice and early now.
I tell you what, we don't. If anybody's close to weight, we don't need the towel anymore. We've got these face masks. We can just.
He's had a funny run in the UFC, hasn't he, Dan? You know, he's never ever been the distance. Never ever needed the judges win, lose or draw.
No, and that, you know, you think back to that fight against Ankalaev where he lost 4 minutes and 50 seconds of the fight and then clamped on that triangle.
Yeah.
I still think we've not even seen a glimpse of what Paul Craig's capable of. I know he's been doing a lot of sparring as well with a professional boxer, Cornish. Is it something?
Here you go.
Cornish.
Here you go, boys.
Oh, that's great. We've got to make them people.
No messing here. Just on the Paul Craig thing, by the way, he's on the main card as well. Big opportunity for him to snatch a few headlines this weekend.
And a good opponent as well.
Yeah.
Ankala, what's his name? Gadzhimurad Antigulov.
Looks all good.
Well, he looks happy, even though we can't hear the actual feed that's coming from Abu Dhabi. Fourth out the gate. He's obviously on weight and doing the business. Looking good, man. You happy with that, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, Colin, a message this morning. I knew that there was going to be no issues whatsoever. You know, people are quite surprised because they're saying, "Oh, you know, he used to make 170, so of course he can make 185." But that's just not how it works. Unfortunately, you know, you need to be on weight. So.
No, so this is interesting. So this is Kazmat Chimaev weighing in here. So he fought at middleweight last week, but his actual weight is 170. He's actually a welterweight, which is quite scary in comparison to, you know, what he was able to do against a big, powerful middleweight last week.
Yeah,
he is.
He's just a beast, isn't he? He just looks absolutely massive for a welterweight.
He's a serious addition to this welterweight division. I could just tell that by the way he handled John Phillips, who, as we know, is a thunderous puncher. But, you know, the things that have been coming out with his Reza Madadi in his corner as well, he's a great corner man. He's going to be animated tomorrow night. The noise that's coming out about this guy, Pani Kianzad, now walking up onto the stage. See, what we'll likely do is we'll probably get 15 or 20 fighters through the door and on the scales, and then it slows down a little bit as they're starting to make weight. The good thing is, though, it's 5 p.m. I mean, this is like old school weigh-ins. You know what I mean? I used to remember waking up at 10 o'clock to start my weight cut, whereas with the early morning weigh-ins now, fighters are getting up really, really early to start weight cuts, or even doing it the night before. This is I like this. I think we should get a lot more fighters on the scales pretty quickly. I think last week it was about 40 minutes, and they were all the way through the weigh.
Yeah,
it was done.
Yeah, they didn't mess about. Just for people joining this feed slightly later, maybe you're at work, you're on your lunch break or whatever, and you come to join us here on BT Sport. Just a quick one. Robert Whittaker and Darren Till are already through the scales, 186 the pair of them. Khamzat Chimaev, who we've been speaking about quite a lot, has just weighed in at 171 pounds, so he's on that welterweight limit. Bear in mind, 10 days ago he fought at middleweight. And we've got Gus on the scales here. We don't have an audio feed, sadly, at the moment, but it'd be good to know where Gus is at when it comes to heavyweight. Blooming heck, he looked good. You must be delighted, Nick. I know you're excited about this big fight with Verdum, but look how cool and calm he looks there. He looks very happy that he can have a few burgers as he's preparing for these big fights.
Yeah, I just think it'll absolutely suit him moving up to heavyweight, because he's got the size. He's like John Jones. He's bigger than most of the heavyweights anyway. He's the best part of 6'6". Gustafsson, he's big, he's long. I think Verdum's a fantastic opponent for him. Obviously, never mind the legacy that Verdum's got in the sport. But Verdum, he's there to be hit. He's like a lot of heavyweights, good on the ground, but quite cumbersome on his feet. I think Gustafsson's going to get the opportunity to light him up.
240 pounds, Gustafsson, by the way.
Mike Grundy on the scales now. As I say, no issues with any of the Cowbond lads.
Straight on.
Looking good, looking well. Talking well as well this week, Dan. I caught up with him for a bit of a conversation yesterday, and he kind of at that stage now where he understands that it's all well and good performing in the octagon and getting victories, but he's got to rock that microphone as well. He's got to force the issue a little bit with his career and start calling out some names, which I can't. That I love that type of stuff. So I'm looking forward to this performance tomorrow night in what is a really great matchup.
Yeah, I think the problem that Mike Grundy is going to run into very quickly, especially if he gets a win this weekend, is that people aren't going to want to fight him because he's going to seem like too great a risk for people to start risking their place in the rankings. That's unfortunately where the trash talk comes in, because then that's where the fan pressure gets on the fighters, and the UFC then start realizing there's noise around particular fighters. Mike is right. He doesn't need to be brash or cocky about it. He just needs to be to the point. And if you start mentioning names, it's this was the one I thought was going to take the longest, because Dalby had more weight to cut than everybody else, as far as I know. He's been in great shape all week, great mental health and everything. He just seems like he's in a real strong place. But I think yesterday he still had about 10, 12 pounds to cut. So that's really encouraging to see him on the scales. And that ink must be weighing him down as well, that new...
That's my excuse, Dan. I was a middleweight before I got any tattoos. Now
that's it. Mike Grundy hit 146, by the way. And just on Dalby, it is such a shame that it's not him and Danny Roberts who were going at it, because we were all dead excited about that fight. But on his opponent, Jesse Ronson, who's making his way back to the UFC after a brief blast in 2014, that'll be an interesting matchup, because Dalby's now expected to win that fight, isn't he? And the pressure's all on him to come through and get the job done.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure on him, because people are going to underestimate Jesse Ronson. The guy's 21-10. He was a two-weight champion at TKO, which is the same promotion that GSP was a champion. We've got to remember that. This is Nicholas Stoltz weighing in right now. He's fighting Ramazan Ameev early on in the card. I think he's the second fight of the night. He's a good kid, good arm bars, aggressive, good counter striking. Where were we? Yeah, back to
Dalby.
Yeah, Dalby and Ronson. So Jesse Ronson's coming back to the UFC, and this is the reason I find this interesting, is because Dalby was in this same situation as well, as you remember. He was in the UFC for a brief stint. It didn't quite work out. He got released, went back to Cage Warriors and got some amazing wins, and has got re-signed. Now he's welcoming somebody back in for their second stint, and they're always better. Yeah. And Jesse Ronson had 3 split decisions over, who was it? Michel Prazeres, Francisco Trinaldo, and Kevin Lee. That's a blow. And 3 split decisions as well. So, he's also stepping up a weight class to take this fight, but I think that's going to work out pretty well for him, because he's a high-paced fighter. He's a good counter striker. And Tom Aspinall looking like Frank Mir.
Yeah, I love that hair. This guy's the real deal, no word of a lie. I want everyone to tune into this guy.
Now, I'm going to mention this, and I know that he's not mentioned it himself, but there's a reason he's growing his hair out, and he's growing it to donate it to a little girl that doesn't have any.
Amazing.
And he will keep that quiet. He won't say anything, but it brought a tear to my eye when he was telling the story the other day. It's that's why he's growing his hair out.
Be interesting to see
Request, yeah.
what Tom does on the scales there. 258 for Aspinall. That's big. That is a big number for a heavyweight, let me tell you. Just had a quick look at the stats there about Gustafsson. Gustafsson weighing 248, sorry, for Aspinall there, 248. 240 for Gustafsson. And bear in mind, the last time they fought, Daniel Cormier was 236 and Stipe Miocic was 230. So that just shows how big Gustafsson is.
You know, Aspinall doesn't look that big when you stand next to him.
No.
I mean, he's clearly a heavyweight, and I know that's been problematic for him for trying to find sparring partners and stuff in previous gyms. But I think standing next to Frank Mir looks like a big heavyweight, but Aspinall must have some dense muscle and some heavy bones to be weighing that at that size. I think he's going to be very impactful in this division. Here's Jesse Johnson now. This. He's a very quietly spoken but very, very experienced individual. It could be a real problem for Dalby if he gets his game going.
171 pounds, the official weight for.
Hey, we got some audio. Check that out. 171 pounds, Jesse Johnson nicking that there. I'll tell you something. They must be enjoying the Abu Dhabi heat, Dan, because they're all flying through at the moment, aren't they? It's obviously helping them with a weight cut, running around that Yas Island Grand Prix track.
Mate, I tell you, it's easy to cut weight here. I've been working out I've got a little balcony outside here. I've been training there in the mornings, and even at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's still red hot. I step outside and I start sweating before I'm even doing anything. So if I'm a fighter, that weight's dropping off me. The focus will be to stay hydrated when you're not weight cutting.
Our next fighter to the scale in the women's strawweight division, Marina Rodriguez.
There we go.
This is an interesting fight as well. She's a great Thai boxer. 2-0-2 in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So she's got 2 wins and 2 draws. But the one hole we've seen in her game a couple of times, it was exposed a little bit by Cynthia Calvillo in her last outing. Is her wrestling. She's an excellent Thai boxer, real slick, long-range striker, good knees, good elbows. But as you know, she's fighting the former champion Carla Esparza. It's going to be all about takedown offense.
Yeah, it is. Esparza's not daft, Dan.
115.5 pounds for Marina Rodriguez.
There you go. On the money. Nobody's missed as of yet. That Abu Dhabi heat's doing everybody the world of good. And if you're just joining us here on the BT Sport feed, we're pleased to tell you that Robert Whittaker and Darren Till both hit 186 respectively each. So the main event, well and truly on. Nobody's getting fined or anything like that. Still got quite a few to get through. We haven't got the legends yet. We haven't seen Shogun and Lil Nog. Maybe they'll come in together then too, Skippy.
Next up in the welterweight division, please welcome Rhys McKee.
This could be interesting.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, for those that don't know too much, Rhys was called in last minute off the back of Khamzat Chimaev asking to stay on the island, going full Wolf of Wall Street. He fought 10 days ago, it'll be, by the time he makes his octagon walk, Khamzat Chimaev. And Rhys McKee called in from Cage Warriors. This is his UFC debut. Did he manage to get down to the welterweight limit? Let's have a look.
170.5. 170.5.
Well done, young man.
Good man.
Well done. And that is a lesson to everybody, isn't it, Dan? Stay ready.
Absolutely.
Stay ready.
Our next fighter to the scale and one half of your co-main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division. Please welcome Shogun Rua.
There we go. There we go. He deserves a round of. Come on, media, give him a round of applause. What's the matter with you? Look at that. Everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody's forgotten in that media room that they're fans first, rather than media guys. Come on, get on your feet for the kid.
Tell you what, he looks good.
Does look good.
Yeah.
No, they weigh you down.
206 pounds for Shogun Rua.
Wow. Compare that to what you just heard from Tom Aspinall and Gustafsson. Unbelievable. 206. That's unreal.
Yeah.
Next up in the heavyweight division, please welcome Jake Collier.
Jake Collier's coming now.
Yeah, he's not taking his shirt off for a reason.
He's like me on the beach, mate.
264 pounds, the official weight for Jake Collier.
Easy. Easy.
264.
Donuts. Easy. Donuts and beer. not a problem. Next. The thing with him, though, I'm looking at Collier, and I've been looking at tape with him, obviously, with a match with Aspinall, and you look at his fighting style. He's quite an unpredictable fighter, but as you say, it's that huge weight increase that he's had. It's not functional muscle, and you'd think that Aspinall's just going to be far too slick for him. It's a good debut for him, but Collier, he is a weird guy when you watch him fight.
Alex Oliveira.
Yeah. Yeah.
£171. 171 pounds, the official weight for
Old
Alex
school.
Oliveira.
He's never going to miss weight, is he? Interesting question there. The main event will have 3 knockouts, says the UFC zone. Chimaev, Gustafsson, and Whittaker. Bit of a statement there with those 3.
Our next fighter to the scale in the heavyweight division, Rafael over here. Rafael Pessoa.
Rafael.
If you're just joining us on BT Sport, Dan Hardy's out in Abu Dhabi right now, and we seem to have just lost him for a slight moment. Fingers crossed we'll get him back, get those pictures and get a bit of audio back from Dan, who's giving us some great insight on some of these fighters that he's been able to speak
264 pounds, the official weight for Rafael
There you go.
Pessoa.
There's another kid weighing in at 264 pounds.
So he's the guy. He should have fought Tom Aspinall in UFC London in March. Obviously, the event got scrapped. Both these guys got moved, but quite interestingly, he's been matched with this Tanner Bossa, who fought just a few weeks ago at the Apex. And Aspinall, obviously, has been matched up with Jake Collier. So I wouldn't be surprised if Pessoa gets a win
Next up
here.
in the bantamweight division, John Castaneda. That's John Castaneda.
If you are just joining us, you'll be pleased to know that Darren Till made weight, 186 pounds, no problem whatsoever. Robert Whittaker got through there as well. I'm just having a quick look down the main card, and we're still waiting for Lil Nog. We're still waiting for Fabrizio Verdum as well. We've seen Paul Craig.
Jai Herbert. Waiting for Jai Herbert.
He's not on the main card.
Sorry,
Calm yourself down, right? Calm
Getting
yourself
excited.
down, sunshine.
136
All right, I know what I'm doing. I'll get to
official
prelims
weight
in a minute.
for John Castaneda.
John Castaneda there just waiting. We're still waiting for Peter Sabota, aren't we? Kamzat Chimaev and Reece McKee have both come in, made weight, bang on that welterweight limit as well. And as Nick was just alluding to, the fight that I said right at the start of the show that I'm looking forward to seeing is obviously Francisco Trinaldo and Jai Herbert. Still waiting for both of those guys to hit the scales. Fingers crossed we'll get Dan Hardy back in a moment or two from Abu Dhabi and get him in that top picture there, as you can see on the screen. But we appreciate you joining us for the weigh-ins for the finale of Fight Island.
Castaneda.
Our next fighter to the scale and the other half of our co-main event of the evening in the 205-pound light heavyweight division, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira.
Combat Americas, where I think he's the featherweight and the lightweight champion. So, good kid. Here's little Nog now.
Take your time, son.
Imagine being 6'5" and 205 pounds and being known as little anything.
I know. We can hear you, Dan. We can.
There he is.
Oh, he got it.
There I am. I thought I'd been disqualified.
For a 44-year-old man, that man looks magnificent.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. I'm not 44.
206 pounds, the official weight for Antonio
On the money.
Rogero Nogueira.
There you go. Giving him his Sunday name as well. I'd have just gone with Lil Nog. There you go. £206. Co-main event on. Like I said at the start of the show, though, Dan, a shame that it's not in Brazil in front of the die-hard fans, because there would be some atmosphere with them two throwing down for a third time.
Yes, yeah, it absolutely would. You know, there's going to be a lot of anticipation going into this one. I mean, the thing is, I don't really think it means a great deal as far as the division goes, but we're at the stage in this sport where I don't think every single fight needs to be a ranking spot or anything like that. We've got super fights, we've got legends. I mean, this is like Batman against Iron Man. You know what I mean? It's nothing to do with belts or anything like that. This is just great martial artists with excellent pedigrees that know each other well, that are coming for one last throwdown. I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. If you match Little Nog with anybody else, it would have been uncomfortable view, and I wouldn't have been into it. But because it's Shogun, because of the history, it is what it is. It's a legends match. Let's take it for what it is. Let's just hope the two of them get to turn up. And I think it's kind of fitting that it's happening in the Middle East, because the Nogueira brothers are huge in the Middle East. They've got Nogueira BJJ gyms all over Dubai and Abu Dhabi and everything else. So I think it's quite a nice place for them to sign off, or for Little Nog to sign off anyway.
Cameraman's having a bit of a party, isn't he? Getting all excited about. I'm liking these tweets that are coming in from people watching the feed. So thank you very much for that. There's a question there. If Gustafsson wins, who would you give him next? John Johnson, heavyweight, isn't it? Come on, boys.
It's the fight I was talking about the other week when I predicted he was going to heavyweight. I want to see him fight Volkov. If he beats Verdun, Volkov's a hell of a fight. That's a main event in Sweden if we get back to regular events at some point. Those two kickboxing in the centre of the octagon would be really, really interesting.
But he did look good. Just in case people are just joining the feed, he looked really good, Nick. I mean, full, happy as well, not cutting any of that weight. It's going to be really interesting to see how he throws down against Verdun tomorrow night. Yeah,
he just didn't look heavy, did he? You know, I think the big fear with a lot of the light heavyweights moving up is that they're suddenly going to look heavy, kind of like, you know, we seen Jake Collier earlier. It's not functional muscle. When you look at Alexander, he kind of looked fighting fit. He kind of looks similar to the way he has done in the past. You know, just a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger. And then to look at the numbers, to see that he's actually 240, he's 35 pounds heavier than when he last stepped foot on the scales to get inside the octagon. When you look at his body shape, his composition like that, you've got to think, wow, what was he actually doing then to get down to 205? Was he starving himself? Was it, you know, and you'd like to think that's going to reflect in his performance. Division,
Gazimurad Antigolov.
Okay, so this is Paul Craig's opponent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gadzimurad Antigolov. He's a bit of a wild man. I remember calling a couple of his fights, and he's a bit of a charge forward and try and knock people out as quickly as possible kind of fighter. He does like...
Nothing wrong with that, Dan. Nothing wrong with that, son.
Nothing wrong with that. Good for Paul Craig as well, who's, you know, he's going to be the taller fighter in there. He's got good long-range punching, kicks and knees. And he doesn't have to, you know, figure out what's going to happen in the fight. It will just happen in front of him, and he'll have to deal with it. And I think they're his best performances anyway. You know, even like Ankalaev, who put it on him for nearly 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He ended up throwing himself into a triangle in the last few seconds. This is the kind of guy that is going to give him those opportunities.
Yeah. This guy's had 4 fights in the UFC, never been out of the first round. 1-2 in the first round by submission, got knocked out twice in the first round
Official
as well.
weight 206 pounds for Gazimurad Antigolov.
To be fair, Nick, we could do with some quick ones. There's 15 fights on, pal. Otherwise, we could be up all night.
Yeah. I've got a flight to catch home.
I like that as well. The permutations of this main event being massive. What is next for the winner of this fight? Who does the loser face? Well, I think it's quite easy to determine what the winner does.
Next up in the welterweight division, Ramadan Amir.
We'll come back to the weigh-ins in a minute, but we're going to see Izzy and Costa throw down. The rumour is that that's in September. Surely the winner of this at the weekend is the one after.
It seems to me like that. I think that's certainly what Darren Till's got in mind. I think if I'm Robert Whittaker, I'm not expecting to get back to a title shot with one victory here. I think, you know, if Robert Whittaker wins, I think Jack Hermansson's a good shout. If he loses, I think Gastelum's a good shout.
I can see if Whittaker wins, I think Whittaker versus
weight for Ramazan Amir.
I think Whittaker versus Cannonier could potentially happen. I think Till wins. Till will literally, he's already said it numerous times. He doesn't want anybody else. He wants the title fight. That is it. And I think right now, with Till's star power especially, I think the UFC realized
Our next fighter to
that
the scale in the women's strawweight division, Carla Esparza.
social media-wise, everything else, there's so much momentum with Till at the moment, and he can go straight into that fight. And it wouldn't surprise me, in fact, if they had Till, stay around the weight in September, just in case one of those guys drops out, then he would shoot straight in.
And another benefit of him being a middleweight now is that he's not, he's not having to worry about a massive weight cut as well as an opponent.
116 pounds, the official weight for Carla Esparza.
Easy work there for Carla. So where fights on with Marina Rodriguez.
Bizarrely enough, I think if Whittaker wins, I think Cannonier, as I said, but I think if Till loses, I don't think his star power would drop that much. I think you're still talking about somebody in the top 5 or 6 anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with Till is if he comes off a loss this weekend, everyone in the middleweight division is going to want to fight him because they know that he sells a fight. Yeah. The likes of Jared Cannonier that doesn't really have much to say for himself, or Jack Hermansson, same situation. Neither of those guys have
in the welterweight division. Peter
Sabota.
Peter Sabota's on his way. He's taking on Alex Oliveira. Listen, there's a couple of interesting polls that have gone up on our social media this week. There's one on the screen right now. Whittaker versus Till, who you got in the Saturday's crazy main event. There's also a poll, if the guys could get that ready, about who would cause Israel Adesanya the most amount of problems. I'll come to that one in a minute. But as you can see there, I'm assuming that is a pro-British reaction. 73% in the favour of the gorilla over the Reaper. But let's be honest, it is far from that.
71 pounds for Peter Sabota.
This is 50-50 right down the middle. 2 elite level strikers. That's what it's going to be for me.
Yeah.
Elite level, high risk chess for a long period of time.
Yeah, I agree. But I've been wondering whether it's going to look like the Wonderboy fight, because that was very kind of cagey, a lot of games being played there. But Whittaker's not that fighter.
No, he isn't.
Wonderboy uses feints.
Next up in the featherweight division, Mosfar Ivloev.
Is Mike Grundy.
There's your boy against Mike Grundy. Yeah, go on. Sorry, Dan, you carry on with
that. I feel like Whittaker's got a different kind of game. Whittaker's game is to throw strikes, to open up opportunities, to land strikes, whereas Wonderboy, he kind of waits and he reads and he sees where the opportunities are. And it was a bit of a standoff, that fight. I just don't think stylistically this one's going to be.
So this guy's taking on Mike Grundy. He's going to be a cracker, as Dan said right at the start of the show. Let's see what he's at weight-wise.
146 pounds, the official weight for Mosfar Ivloev.
Going to be a cracker.
Undefeated.
Going to be a cracker.
Undefeated coming into this fight, taking on Mike Grundy. 2 elite level wrestlers, different styles. Normally when we get fights like that, Nick, wrestlers just decide to throw down, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Speaking to Grundy before he flew out there, he would absolutely embrace that as well. He'd love it. Any opportunity to really close the distance on this guy. I think they're both in the same boat. They know they're both strong grapplers. They know they've got decent hands.
Our next fighter to the scale in the lightweight division. Please welcome Jay Herbert.
Here we go. Well. This is what we've been waiting for. UFC debut, Jay Herbert. Coming up from Cage Warriors, dominating there. Gave up his daytime job to now make that leap to the UFC. A lot of people excited about this now at the weekend. He's taking on Trinaldo, a UFC legend. Finishing off the prelims as well. What a wonderful opportunity for this young man to go and showcase his talents. Let's see where he's at on the weight.
£156 pounds, the official weight for Jay Herbert.
Looks good, looks good, looks confident, looks well. I wish my scales were as quick as that. When I get on there, they wobble for ages. This fella just gives it one of them and we're done. We're off. Go on, son, you're up.
Big opportunity for Jai. And you know what? I know he's up against it. He's up against an absolute veteran. I think...
All right, everybody stand by. We're going to take a quick break.
We're going to have a little break here. I know Trinaldo's probably had more UFC fights than Jai Herbert's had fights, period. But he has got that length. He has got that size. He is confident because, his teammate, Lerone Murphy's just had a real signature $50,000 bonus win. So momentum in the camp will be up. Don't rule out the Black Country banger just yet to make a bit of a statement. I think that's what we found on Fight Island. A couple of Brits have always made a statement, and Jai could be the one. What a way to get his career going, Dan, if he can get a scalp like Trinaldo day one. Amazing.
It's massive straight away. You know, it's a big win, a big fight straight away. The downside is everybody in the division knows how good Trinaldo is. And if he gets a win, especially if it's an impressive one, people are going to kind of start trying to give him a wide berth. But Jai Herbert's got that kind of fan favourite style that it's always exciting because of the speed of his hands. Where's that poll you were talking about, Adam?
Mate, with all due respect, now, what are people voting on there? Jared Cannonier on the 8%. I think 8% of that is crackers.
I think they're voting on who's the funniest on Twitter, to be honest.
Of the following contenders yet to face Israel Adesanya, who you think has the best chance of beating the middleweight champion? Now, this is no disrespect to any other guys. I'd actually have Cannonier as the lead. I think he should be the lead in that.
I say the same thing. I go Cannonier, probably Cannonier, Costa, Till, and Hermansson in that order. But, you know, only because Darren Till's, you know, in the very, very early stages of his middleweight career. You know, people are really big on Costa, but I've just not been massively impressed with what he's done so far. I didn't think he beat Yoel Romero. I felt like, you know, especially if that was over 5 rounds, I think Romero would have probably taken the decision or stopped him in the last 2 rounds. And then, you know, Johnny Hendricks he was a retired welterweight when he was fighting at middleweight. And Uriah Hall got kneed in the groin twice, and he always breaks mentally anyway when he gets put under pressure. I still think we need to see a bit more from Paulo Costa. If he beat Jared Cannonier, absolutely, definitely number 1 contender. But at the moment, I think that spot's ready to be taken by anybody. And I think a win here for Till this weekend, especially, I mean, Paulo Costa came off that, is it a bicep tendon tear as well? It's a very strange thing that is. Jared Cannonier's had the pectoral surgery. Jack Hermansson's automatically behind Darren Till because he lost to Gastelum. So, because he lost to Cannonier.
He lost to Cannonier, yes.
I mean, it's there for the taking. It is there for the taking.
It's a daft question asking you that, Nick, innit? I can see you smiling.
Very daft. Very daft. Listen, let's do that poll again on Sunday lunchtime and see what people are saying then after the gorilla lays claim for that title shot in style.
But you're right, because that's how big this fight is at the weekend. If you go make a statement against Robert Whittaker, the former champion, then of course people are going to start believing in whether it's hype or not. They're going to believe that it's real.
Exactly, you know, and look at the body of work, as Dan's just explained then about Paulo Costa. You know, his body of work doesn't necessarily suggest someone that's going to give Israel Adesanya huge problems. Whereas Darren Till, when you look back, okay, take away the defeats for a second, but the performance, certainly against Stephen Thompson, the performance then, the bounce-back performance under all that pressure against Kelvin Gastelum, when it comes down to it, his fight IQ is off the charts. And I think to beat Israel Adesanya, you've either got to be a Costa Cannonier type who's got the kind of punch power that can switch your lights out with one shot, or a Darren Till who can enter into a game of striking masterclass chess with him and potentially win rounds against Adesanya. Adesanya's not going to fight any of these guys the way he fought Kelvin Gastelum. You fight Kelvin Gastelum, big and long, went to war with him, and I think he was trying to prove a point. He's never going to do that with Costa or Cannonier with their kind of power, and he's never going to run into the kind of shots he did like that against someone of the prowess of Darren Till. So completely different fights, completely different makeup. I hope we are having this conversation again on Sunday because it'll mean only one thing. And I'm telling you now, here's another question with the same answer. Which one of those opponents, if Till wins this weekend, which one of those opponents makes the most money, is the most fan interest, gets the most eyeballs on a fight? I'm telling you now, it's Darren Till. Don't be surprised if Till Adesanya happens on Fight Island in September. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm surprised you didn't say Anfield then.
We've just not seen anything of Darren Till yet. We've just not seen anything of Darren Till as a middleweight. I always felt, you know, how many times have we said this? How many times have we had this discussion? Darren Till as a welterweight wasn't what Darren Till's capable of. I mean, like when we interviewed him at Media Day when he was fighting Wonderboy, like his lips were chapped, his lips were stuck to his teeth. He couldn't really think straight as far as actual fighting because it was the scales first.
Yeah.
You know, you're going into a fight with Wonderboy, but you've already got an opponent the day before in those scales. I just feel like now he's taken that off the table, And even fighting Gastelum, I think we saw Darren Till as a welterweight without a weight cut. I think the more we see him grow into this weight class, the better he's going to look. And I think that's the advantage here for Robert Whittaker, is that he's had more time in this weight class, which is why I think he looked bigger when they faced off, because he's had more time to grow into it. Darren Till's 2 years younger than Whittaker as well. Give him those 2 years to continue growing and training.
All right, everybody, stand by.
He's going to be a beast.
Yeah, man.
Looks like there's somebody else going to come our way and get on the scales. We're still waiting to see Fabrizio Verdum and Trinaldo as well. That's the one that I'm looking forward to. Fingers crossed Trinaldo's on weight, because that's the fight that I'm giddy for against Jai Herbert, making his UFC debut against that legend. Let's see who's coming our way. Thank you very much for joining us on the BT Sport feed.
Charlie Bronson.
Can you imagine if he gets on the scales now? That would be amazing.
That's a fight I'd watch.
And if you are just joining us, by the way, Darren Till weighed in, I think he was fourth out, wasn't he? 186 he hit. Robert Whittaker was first out. He hit as well. So the main event was done and dusted within a couple of moments. And of course, the majority of all the fighters that we've been featuring on Open Mat throughout the course of the week have hit the scales as well, including Alex Gustafsson making his heavyweight debut, looking big and looking well. We're just waiting for his opponent now in Fabrizio Verdum to hit the scales and get that fight signed and sealed. Listen, it could be historic. Fingers crossed. Everybody's going to hit weight. Fingers crossed none of these fights are going to fall off, because, as I said right at the start of the show, first time since 1994, UFC 2, where we could see 15 fights on a card, all getting underway from 11 o'clock, prelims for you on BT Sports. So make sure you come and join us for that. You might need, in the words of Darren Till, some chips and dips just to keep you going throughout the course of the night, because there's a lot of fights to be getting through. It's going to be action-packed from start to finish. And there's no sleepers on there. You look at some of the contests that we've got, the prelims are absolutely packed. And then when you get to that main card, kicking off with Khamzat Chimaev and Reece McKee, the narrative there, it's there for you. You're hooked in. You're with us throughout the course of the night. And the cherry on top of the cake, of course, being Robert Whittaker taking on Darren Till. We're all extremely excited for the narrative there, well and truly written. Just a shame, lads. I mean, I said just a shame, lads. Dan's there. Just a shame, Nick, that me and you will be sat in our houses watching this because of everything that's going on with this crazy world.
Everybody, here we go.
Absolutely.
Our next fighter to the scales in the heavyweight division. Please welcome Tanner Boser.
Bozer's here.
Even watching from afar, though, even just tuning into these 4 events in 15 days. We're getting the final event tomorrow, Sunday morning. It's just been a huge win for the UFC all round, because Fight Island has absolutely lived up to every expectation and more. We've seen incredible world title fights, upsets, knockouts of the years, fight of the year contenders. It's been unbelievable. And this 15-fight card, especially with this main event, what a way to sign off. It's incredible.
235 pounds, the official weight for Tanner Boser.
He's just been for breakfast. That's why he's been taking so blooming long. He's been for something to eat.
He hasn't. He's been for dinner. It's nearly 6 o'clock here.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
He's an interesting.
There's nothing better.
Guy.
He's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, because he's always undersized for a heavyweight. I mean, if you look at his fight against Cyril Gane, and Cyril Gane, as we know, is an absolute monster in the heavyweight division. Bosa's the only guy that made the distance with him, and he looked good doing it as well. Even though he lost, he's got good footwork. He's got good hands. He's a very intelligent striker. And he's 25 fights into his career. He's got a lot of experience. He's used to fighting guys that are bigger and slower than him. And he's fighting Rafael Pessoa, who is a bigger, slower guy than him. I mean, if he decides he's going to start running at you, throwing punches, he's lethal. But Bosa's footwork is going to probably keep him out of trouble a lot of the time in this one.
He's someone else as well that's taken advantage of the situation. We fought at the Apex last month, just 4 weeks ago. First round knockout, boom. Dana, get me back in. Cool. Be ready. You get on a flight.
What a knockout as well. That was the karate chop knockout, wasn't it? Yeah. The finish. That was beautiful. So that's stuck in my brain. Bang, 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 bang. Steven Seagal him on the floor.
And he's got a mullet. There's nothing better, right, when you're throwing leather than that mullet wafting around in the sky. It just makes it look more redneck.
Mine's coming.
He's like a rehabilitated Roy Nelson, isn't he?
That's it, man. Got a wicked nickname, Bulldozer Boser. Obviously, that wrote itself. And he's got a mullet. What more does anybody want? Make sure you're tuning into his fights.
Yeah, it's a good one, that one. Interestingly as well, Rafael Pessoa has moved his training camp. He's now with Davi Hamosh, who fought last week as well. And Hamosh's in his corner with a face full of stitches, the poor guy. But when we interviewed him the other day, Dabi Hamosh was in the interview as well, and it's always interesting kind of picking his brain as a new coach and training partner for Pessoa, because he was saying, he's a big kid. He's just a big kid. He wants to play on his phone all night. I have to tell him to go to bed. He's been staying with Dabi Hamosh, and he actually broke the bed in the room that he's staying in. He's so big. But I feel like, listening to those guys and talking, listening to them talking amongst themselves, I think Pessoa's found the right thing now. I think he's surrounded by guys that can really start to grow his skill set. After that first loss that he picked in the UFC, I think it was a bit of a sign that something needed to change. And obviously, Hamosh is a great mind in the sport, a great competitor as well as a coach. I'm excited for it.
You can see that poll on the screen, which people are currently interacting with on our social media platforms. The main event is set. Who looked best on the scales, Whittaker or Till? I'm going to be honest with you. I thought they both looked mint. Absolutely. When Whittaker walked out, I thought, whoa, he looked good. And then Till come out confident. He looked good as well. You know what I mean? I know that a lot of people, again, are big Till fans and they're going heavy with the Scouser. But again, for me, Dan, 50-50. They both look good.
Yeah, they both look good. Whittaker looks like...
We can hear you, Dan.
Mate, I don't know how you're doing it. That's all that time that you spent with them Shaolin monks. How are you managing to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, Darren looks a lot happier during this camp, and I know that he's maybe changed that regime a little bit. I know that at the start of it, he was doing that keto diet, and I know that he laughs and jokes about his cans of fizzy drinks and various things like that. And I know that he's continued that process throughout the course of this camp, which has probably helped his mind. He looks a lot happier during the process of this particular cut than I've seen him for a long time.
Yeah, I just think all round he's just maturing as a man. He obviously his past's well documented, some of the mistakes he's made and everything else. But he's moved out to the suburbs now. He lives in a nice big house on the outskirts of Liverpool. He's just had a second baby with his girlfriend. He's putting his roots down. You just feel like he's maturing as an athlete and making weight, doing the keto diet in stages. Like, that was 10 weeks out from camp, and he did the keto diet for a week just to get his weight right under control. And listen, it helps that former UFC fighter Paul Kelly is now back involved in that gym, because Paul's, he owns a big health and nutrition restaurant in Liverpool, Paul Kelly, and he's banged into his nutrition, and I think he's drumming that into Till, that you can make your life so much easier if instead of dieting, you've just got a lifestyle that lends itself to gradually cutting your weight down in periods, so it makes it a lot easier. So for the first time ever, I've heard Till talking about macros and things like that, when nothing like that at all. And I remember a couple of weeks before the fight with Masvidal, I think it was 5 or 6 weeks out, and he mentioned it in the BT Sport interview. He went out with the lads, and he said, I just had a little cheeky beer. He said, but in hindsight, you look back, you think, well, 5 weeks out, one beer is not going to make any difference. But that's not the point. It's that mentality that you need to be. I'm making these sacrifices. I'm a professional athlete. I'm going to behave like a professional athlete. Doesn't matter whether the fight's, I haven't even got a fight in the agenda, or whether it's 2 weeks away, whatever it may be. My lifestyle choices lend themselves to being the best professional I can possibly be. And that's what Till is just slowly evolving into now. And what Dan just said then earlier was bang on. Whittaker is 2 years older. He is arguably 2 years ahead. And I think Whittaker's taken confidence from the fact he was a welterweight that's growing into the middleweight division, that has been middleweight champion. I think in his mind, Whittaker feels like he's ahead of where Till is in his life right now, and he's taking advantage of that. But I just think we are seeing him mature into and realize all that potential that so many people around him his entire life. This is why I keep going on. He will be UFC champion. I've been around him a long time. I've been around UFC fighters for a long time. I know when I see someone that's got the ability to go all the way, and he's maturing in the right way to potentially get there. Will it be this year? Will it be next year? I don't know. Will he hold on to the title for a 5-year reign? I doubt it. He's not that type of kid. But at some stage, he will have UFC gold. I'm convinced of it.
Well, they both look mint. They were, as I said, first and fourth out on the scales a little earlier on, both hitting 186. So therefore, the main event is well and truly on. The big finale of Fight Island, we're getting it, and we're also getting a hell of a lot of fights as well. Dan Hardy will hopefully be back with us in a moment or two, just having a little bit.
Oh, he's still there
with his feet. Oh, we can hear him. Yeah, you're still there here. I can hear you in the background. I just can't see your beautiful face.
There he is.
See, there
Ninja.
You've got more work though to do a little bit later on, haven't you? You've got obligations a little bit later on, some more official stuff with the UFC, preparing for obviously calling the fights, of which we'll hear your dulcet tones on the on BT Sport in the early hours of the morning. For people just tuning in, for some reason your picture just keeps flicking in and out, but we can hear you. So don't go anywhere, mate, because we obviously want to keep that insight. So you're flicking over to the Americans, are you? You're having a little bit of a go on the American TV channels. Dan, what is the take on the worldwide media attitude towards the main event? Listen, we're all invested in Darren's journey and all the British fighters' journey that are out there on Fight Island, and we want them all to do extremely well, of course, because we're a British broadcaster. But what's their take on the main event? How are they seeing it? Yeah. Oh, looks like we've just lost Dan's feed there for a split second. Fingers crossed we can get that sorted. He's out in Abu Dhabi, just in case you're wondering what's going on. Obviously, me and Nick are still on our own Wi-Fi rather than hotel Wi-Fi, hence you being able to keep seeing our faces. Just want to bring up Nathaniel Wood's name, if that's all right, Nick,
yeah.
Because I can see Craig on Twitter's just tweeted about him. What next for him? Forget what's next. Tomorrow night is a big night for Nathaniel Wood, coming off the back of that defeat.
Yeah.
Big learning moment for him in the UFC. This is a real opportunity for him to maybe steal a bit of the show, because we saw Davey Grant open a card last week, didn't we? Put in a wonderful performance, got himself a bit of a bonus. First fight on for Nathaniel, big opportunity for him.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got to get back to where he was. You know, the John Dodson fight was supposed to be his big breakthrough fight. You know, a couple of good wins in the UFC. We all know about Nathaniel Wood's quality. And the John Dodson one, you know, John Dodson's a former been there, done it, wore the T-shirt, title contender, absolute veteran. But Nathaniel rocked into Albuquerque like the win was a foregone conclusion and got a bit of a rude awakening against a wily old veteran. So he's got to bounce back here, and he's got to bounce back in style. I'm expecting him to do so. as you say, the Brits have been brilliant in Fight Island with the curtain jerking about getting the show off to a good start, and I'm expecting nothing short of a finish from Nathaniel Wood. But you're right, do not look past John Castaneda at this point in time. You know, the guy's a champion at Combat Americas, sexy Mexi, they call him. He's a veteran who's waited a long time to get in the UFC. He actually turned down an extended contract with his former promotion to test the waters, just in case an opportunity like this arose to make his debut on Fight Island. So you can't rule anybody like that out, you know. So Nathaniel will be switched on. You know Brad's going to have him absolutely switched on for this fight. It's a big opportunity. Get the win and then rock the mic. Do what we say all the time. Get the win, rock the mic. Imagine the Dodson win is in your locker. Don't look below that. You're probably not going to get the rematch, but call out to Jimmy Rivera, call out someone who's on the peripheries of that top 10 and make a big move for it. Because I always say, even if you think, oh, we can't call out someone in the top 10, he's not on that radar yet. That doesn't matter, because you guarantee if he calls out Jimmy Rivera in the early hours of Sunday morning, then you guarantee that the next person to put a microphone in Jimmy Rivera's face will say, oh, did you hear Nathaniel Wood called you out? And even if Jimmy Rivera says, who's that guy? Or he says, yeah, man, I'll fight anyone. That's all you need. That's the only opportunity you need. And then you build on that momentum. And that's how you climb up the division. We talked about it earlier with Mike Grundy being more vocal. These guys need to realize this career is short. And if you don't start calling for fights that you probably don't even deserve, then guess what? You'll keep getting fights early on the prelims, curtain jerkers, that kind of thing. You've got to climb the ranks, call out big names, and I think for me, Jimmy Rivera would be perfect.
Well, Nathaniel is first on, 11 p.m. BT Sports, Saturday night. That's when it all gets underway with the prelims. And then, of course, the main card is absolutely stacked, kicking off with Khamzat Chimaev and finishing with that fantastic fight involving Darren Till at the end of the night. And just a quick one on Fight Island as a whole, Nick. And the UFC, since we've come back to this new normal that we're all experiencing, we're seeing other sports suffering with a lack of fans and even lack of competition, I suppose. In the world of boxing, I know that they're suffering. Football's most certainly suffering. But the UFC have hit the ground running. Ever since May the 9th, and they brought up Ferguson versus Gaethje for us, and all the fights that we've had some real Fight of the Year contenders, some absolute crackers. The Burgos and Emmett fight springs to mind. Poirier against Hooker was an absolute screamer as well. The level of competition has remained on point all the way through. Fight Island, listen, the idea of it caught all our imagination, didn't it? Everybody was excited about the idea of Fight Island. And from last weekend at UFC 251 right through to where we're finding ourselves right now with Whittaker versus Till and the card that is going to be coming alongside it, it's most certainly lived up to everybody's expectation and maybe exceeded it.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's even exceeded expectations. It's been unreal. And yes, we haven't quite got the visual we all wanted, the palm trees and everything else. But in all seriousness, it doesn't matter when the fights deliver. It doesn't matter when the UFC is able to put on the fights they have done. Flying in Masvidal and everything else for that first event was just insane. And the UFC just hasn't stopped since. I'd love to have been out on Fight Island just to experience this coming and going of fighters flying in. And then what we're seeing is literally hours after their fight, they're on a flight home. There's a real turn and wheel there. And there's so many eyeballs globally on the octagon right now and on the UFC and on how they are performing. Why is this promotion able to perform at the level it is during this pandemic and get the kind of numbers it's getting and get their athletes to perform at this level when most sports are still trying to concern themselves on how to get going again, never mind finish things off. So I just think it's been unreal to be a part of it all. And it feels like it's just the beginning because Fight Island ain't going to go away. Right now, the pandemic set in. We're hearing a lot of rumours about Fight Island 2 being in September. Another 2 weeks of action-packed fights. Hopefully those rumours play themselves true. And who knows, if lockdown spreads across the US and hits Nevada, they might end up back on Fight Island sooner rather than later. So I think we touched on it earlier. If you're an international fighter with the UFC or even anyone on the UFC roster or on the verge of being signed by the UFC, if you're not in camp right now, in some kind of camp to get in shape, just in case the phone rings, then are you even a fighter, dude?
Obviously, you just mentioned UFC 251 there and flying Masvidal in, and that caught everybody's imagination. But who has been the fighters that when we leave Fight Island Sunday morning and we're thinking about the 4 events that we've had over that 2-week period, who are the ones that stand out? I'll chuck some names your way that have really caught my imagination. At the start of this, I was really excited about Petr Yan and what he could do against Jose Aldo. That fight most certainly rose his stock. He, for me, is the guy in the bantamweight division. I know we've got a stacked division there with Aljamain Sterling, Cody Garbrandt, Sean O'Malley, all these guys that are ready for a shot at the title. No question about that. But Petr Yan, I thought coming into it was the main guy. The way that he changed the momentum of the fight against Jose Aldo and did what he did to become the world champion, I thought was absolutely sensational. The event afterwards, okay, it maybe flattered to deceive a little bit, didn't it? Because we didn't get any knockdowns through a 9-fight card. There was everything went to decisions on the main card. And a few of our British guys, including Molly McCann, didn't live up to what we expected them maybe to do on that particular night. But last weekend, there was some Figueiredo, man. That's where it's at for me. Yep. What a wonderful performance from him against Joey Benavidez. Pure savagery in that flyweight division. Who can challenge him? That's the big question, I suppose, now. And then there's that name that I've mentioned on several occasions on this show because he's fighting again this weekend in Khamzat Chimaev. That guy caught all our imagination with his performance on the Wednesday night show. And now we see him 10 days later performing once again in what is the quickest turnaround in the UFC modern era. And if he wins, by the way, that'll be the quickest turnaround of back-to-back wins, beating the previous record of 13 days. Sensational. And for me, it's those 3 names that I will walk away from. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've got an event tomorrow night to get excited about. But at the moment, it's those 3 names that I will take away off Fight Island going, their stock has most certainly risen, and we're going to see a lot more of them in the upcoming months.
Yes. Do you know what? I will also throw in there the crazy Czech guy who
Yuri Prochazka.
With that high kick, left hand, right hand combination.
Good shout.
He has arrived because 2 weeks ago the guy wasn't even in the UFC. Now he's in the top 6 of the light heavyweight division, so he's absolutely legit. But yeah, listen, I'll also throw in there as well. I got a bit of criticism of my reaction following his performance, but let's not forget how utterly dominant Kamaru Usman was for 25 minutes against a real live wire, in form, tail up Jorge Masvidal. He was utterly dominant, and for all the criticism I gave him in the aftermath, his performance that night was, you couldn't fault it in terms of being, yes, it was slightly safety first, but he completely and utterly dominated Jorge Masvidal. And he's adding to his own legacy in his own way. Yes, I think he could have took a bit of a shortcut to superstardom, but he is truly the best welterweight on the planet right now. And when you look around that welterweight division, yes, there's a couple of contenders, but there's nobody there that I would say put money on the table and believe can beat Kamaru Usman tomorrow in a fight at welterweight. He is the best welterweight on the planet. So I've got to single out Usman as well, but you're right. We've got 15 fights to go on Fight Island. So there's a couple of slots left open for superstardom just yet, for sure.
Absolutely. And if you are just joining us, we're near enough an hour down of today's weigh-in. There's an hour remaining. Hopefully it won't be a full hour because by my calculations, there's only 3 fighters still to come. Betcha Carrera in the women's bantamweight fight against Panikian Zad. We've got Francisco Trinaldo as well, still waiting to weigh in, who's taking on Jai Herbert. That's a fight that we're all looking forward to. And we're still waiting for Fabrizio Verdun.
Yeah,
a bit alarming. He's probably at the buffiest, Fabrizio. He'll be making his way our way very, very shortly, hopefully. But the good news is that Robert Whittaker and Darren Till weighed in very, very early. Robert first on the scales. Darren Till was 4th on the scales, both hitting 186. The main event is well and truly on, as is the co-main event between Lil Nog and Shogun in the light heavyweight division.
Have left the hotel, so 5 to 7 minutes for the next batch.
Two fighters.
All right, so 2 fighters have left the hotel. You just heard there, and they are on the way to the scales.
Out of the 3 names that we're waiting for, Adam, the concerning one is Betcha Correa.
Absolutely.
She's missed weight numerous times before in the past. She's failed to make bantamweight. Since she had this rocket rise to that world title opportunity against Ronda Rousey, and then got knocked out. I think it was in about 30 seconds. And since then, I think she's had about 2 wins in about 6 or 7 starts. And she's missed weight numerous times during that period as well. So she's probably at the hotel still sweating somewhere in a bin bag sparring or skipping in a bin bag or something medieval like that. But you're right. Fabrizio Verdum is literally just he's a veteran heavyweight. He knows there's no rush. He can rock in whenever he wants. And he's, probably at the buffet, as you say.
So we were just waiting on those three to weigh in, and we will keep you across that. Fingers crossed, like I said, it won't last for an hour. The box that is above my head that you can see on this feed on BT Sport was for Dan Hardy, and he's been with us for the first hour of the show. But I think he's used all his megabytes in the Abu Dhabi hotel, so therefore he's struggling with his Wi-Fi at the moment. And it doesn't look like he'll be returning anytime soon. But he was here for the first hour of the show and called through some fantastic pieces of insight, of which I've no doubt you'll be able to read.
He'll be on his way over to the scales, Dan. He'll be making weight just.
Dan's probably looking for a fight.
Just in case Ronaldo doesn't turn up, he's going to be making weight. Watch.
No, absolutely. You can see that on the screen. We know that name of Mark Cutting. I'm not going to out him and tell everybody who he is, but he's asking you a question there, Nicholas. In what is next for Molly McCann coming off the back of a defeat? With her outing on Fight Island.
Yeah, listen, I spoke to Molly a couple of days after. I spoke to Molly in the immediate aftermath, and I spoke to her a couple of days after the fight once she was back in Liverpool as well. And, she's hurting still. She's upset that obviously the fight didn't go her way at all. She fought for every second of every round, and she's proud of that. But she believes she's moved forward massively with her all-round mixed martial arts ability, that she thought she would be able to impose herself a lot different. She said she was very surprised by the strength of the Brazilian opponent, who looked quite wiry, but she said her physical strength was like nothing she's experienced before. But listen, Molly debuted with a defeat at UFC Liverpool. She come in, she missed weight, she lost in Liverpool, and it changed her life. She went away, she became a professional, and she won't mind me saying that. She completely changed her career. She became obsessed with jiu-jitsu tournaments and grappling tournaments. And then we got 3 wins on the spin from her, where we could really see her develop as a mixed martial artist and grow into her ability. Yes, this is another setback, but you know what? If the previous defeat is anything to go by, this will just make Molly work even harder. This will just make her go back again and go, okay, there's more holes in my game. I've got to work again. And hopefully she comes back and goes straight into a 3-fight win streak. So at the moment, she's got no plans. I hinted a potential move down to strawweight. No plans for that at the moment. She is, as I say, still hurting a little bit, but you will absolutely see Molly McCann bounce back. And don't be surprised if Molly actually fights in this rumoured September return to Fight Island, because she will want to right those wrongs and she'll want to bounce back as quickly as possible.
Liam, on the screen, I'll get to your question in a minute about Adesanya, but we just saw the poll come up there, and I mentioned or referenced this a little bit earlier on in this stream about where people think the main event's going to be going on Saturday night between Whittaker and Till, and it's overriding for people that are watching this on the BT Sports stream and interacting with the BT Sport social channels. It's high 70s. I think it was 73% in favour of Darren Till that he's going to be coming out with a victory. A lot of people excited about the prospect of this being absolute flames. But I think, as I said to Dan a little earlier on, that it will be high-level chess. I really do. I think it'll be very, very cagey. These two are elite-level strikers, and they will respect each other's powers. You'll know that either one of these can put each other's lights out, and there'll be a little bit of that, I think, in the early stages of this fight. Do you think at any point, Nick, that Robert Whittaker will turn to his wrestling base and his grappling in order to get his hands on Darren, whereas Darren is more of a guy that likes to use feints, doesn't he, to set up traps in order to lure his opponent in and then ping him as they make that fatal error?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think I don't think we're going to see another Stephen Thompson type performance. I don't even think we're going to see another Kelvin Gastelum type performance, because Tiller's got the ability to do that. And I don't think Whittaker will play into those hands. I think he's more, whereas Gastelum's a great wrestler, got great wrestling pedigree. I think Whittaker's more confident in using his wrestling and wanting to use his wrestling. He's quite happy. Listen, if I'm getting hit on the feet, I'll just shoot for a shot and take you down and take you into that world as well. And that's a world that we've never really seen Till pushed on. Obviously, he was submitted by Tyron Woodley, but I think Till's prepared for that.
Everybody, our next fighter to the scale in the heavyweight division, Fabrizio.
Here we go.
The buffet's closed.
There you go. Buffet's shut. Here's Fabrizio. Look at him. He's actually come straight from the pool and sauna, hasn't he? Shirt's already off. Here we go, Fabrizio. Kept us waiting.
No shirt, no flip-flops, straight on the scales.
Straight back to the sun lounger in a minute. I do like the Doom. He's just so cool, isn't he? Just a cool guy.
242 pounds, the official weight for Fabrizio.
Why'd you make us wait? 242? Blimey, Nick. Right, go on. Enjoy the rest of your day. Fabrizio Verdum there. Just completing that. So his fight is on. Looks well, man. Look at him.
Next up
Straight
to the
out.
scale in the women's bantamweight division.
This is big.
Betch Correa.
Here we go. This is big.
Oh, look at that walk. She's walking with a purpose.
I think she's been with Fabrizio on the beach. Have they just come in? They've been on the jet skis, haven't they?
Banana boat.
136 pounds, the official weight for Betch Correa.
Why make us
What's the crack with that?
She has.
Hey? Why were you? I'll tell you something.
In the water park.
They've been out on the jet skis or something on the beach. They've been enjoying themselves, them two.
Yeah, been the water park, yeah. Ridiculous. No reason to make us wait.
What time's weighing? Oh, we're missing it. Quick, we better get in there and get weighed in.
Everybody.
Is this final one as well? Are we going to get Trinaldo? Has he been with him as well?
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Could have had this done in 40 minutes for everybody. Everybody could have gone back to cracking on with the rest of the day. There's people sat at home at work and what have you, delaying the rest of the day because they're obviously locked in. The big one next with Trinaldo is obviously that he's fighting Jai Herbert, and there'll be a lot of fans obviously watching this feed right now. There are big Jai Herbert fans. They'll have followed his career throughout the Cage Warriors days, and now they know how big of a deal this is, fighting a legend in Trinaldo. And fingers crossed, he hits the lightweight mark in a moment or two, and we have that fight confirmed. Because for me, out of all the fights that we're talking about, we've got a fantastic fight for Grundy against Ivaloev on the prelims. You've mentioned the Gustafsson heavyweight debut, but I can't get enough of that Jai Herbert Trinaldo fight. It's a really interesting matchup. If he comes through there on your UFC debut, you've got that guy's name on your resume.
Yeah.
Boom. Your career's off to a flyer in the UFC.
Yeah, and we talk about Trinaldo because he is a vet. You know, he's been around for so long. He is 41 now. I think Dan mentioned earlier, you know, he's been there, done it, wore the t-shirt, has been in the UFC longer than Jai's even been fighting. But he doesn't come into this on the back of a string of defeats. He isn't on his way out of the sport. Far from it. In fact, he comes into the fight on the back of two big wins as well. You know, so it's a huge opportunity for Jai to claim the scalp of a veteran that is actually still competing at the highest level. The problem is he's trouble for everyone, and he's seen it all before, Trinaldo, and that's what Jai's got to get over. You know, we can't look across the octagon and be intimidated by the experience that's staring him down. He's just got to go in there and play his own game, do his own thing, you know, just pretend it's just another fight. It doesn't matter. And maybe the fact that it's not in front of a fan base, the fact that it is more or less like a fight behind closed doors, maybe that will help Jai Herbert, because suddenly that moment of being in the UFC feels a little bit less daunting when there isn't 20,000 fans going ballistic. And meanwhile, the flip side of that is this is Trinaldo's first fight behind closed doors in probably about 40, 50 fights. You know, he's not used to fighting behind closed doors at all. So he might not get the lift that the fans that a 41-year-old man might possibly need. So hopefully the stars have aligned here that Jai, and if he gets a win here in a fight like this on his UFC debut, boom, that would be absolutely incredible. Opportunity knocks, man.
Let's get that question done for Liam, who's been very kind and tweeted that into us on our feed. What's next for Adesanya? And notice that that if is capital if he loses to Costa. Obviously, I think Liam is insinuating that he doesn't believe that will happen, but this is mixed martial arts, and then the narratives they aren't. They don't always play out as you imagine them to be. So what happens next for Adesanya if he loses to Costa? I would think that the UFC depends on the manner of the defeat, doesn't it? If it's a major blowout, if he's knocked Spark out, then there's obviously maybe a different narrative there. But if it's nip and tuck, contentious or whatever, you probably think that the UFC might look to rebook a rematch, would they not?
I don't know whether they'd rebook a rematch, because there's two or three guys, as we discussed earlier, that are strong contenders for that title, and you know, if Till comes through this weekend, then Till versus Paulo Costa in Brazil would actually do huge numbers because of Till's tie to Brazil as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of went down that route. So Adesanya, in terms of
All right,
coming
everybody,
back,
just
any of those
so
guys,
you're up to date with us, we're probably looking around 6:40 for our next weigh-in. So if you need to take a break, please feel free to do so.
30 minutes away. Trinaldo's wants 30 more minutes before he makes weight. So that's not a good sign. That means he's definitely struggling, that he's sent a message down to say, I need another half an hour. That will give him just 15, 20 minutes before the scales actually close. So that's not a good sign for Trinaldo. But you know what it is? It's a great sign for Jai Herbert that a 41-year-old man is currently in his room or locked down somewhere, sweating profusely, desperately trying to get the last few ounces off to make weight. Because, listen, speaking as another 41-year-old man, I'm 41. It's not easy to get weight off once you're in your 40s. So right now, my heart bleeds for Trinaldo. But Jai Herbert, who by now is fully refreshed, he's probably tucking into a nice bit of food now as well. That news should filter through to him. And that, for me, that almost feels like round one to Jai Herbert already.
I'm in my 30s. I don't have that problem as of yet. Anyway, as we were just saying about Adesanya a moment or two ago, my man, what would be next for Adesanya? Because if you're, you're edging your bets and you're thinking that Till's going to beat Whittaker at the weekend.
Yes.
So if Costa comes up with a victory against Adesanya, and nobody's saying that that's going to happen, we're just giving you a few different dynamics that could happen. You would go Till, Costa in Brazil.
Yes.
Because of Till being fluent in Portuguese, and obviously his past narrative with Brazil. So what then for Adesanya? Jared Cannonier?
I think Cannonier would be a tough one. I think you could always do the Whittaker fight. If Whittaker comes through this weekend, I think there's a better chance of him fighting Adesanya if Adesanya were to lose to Costa, because it's still a big fight obviously for Down Under. I think as well, Kelvin Gastelum. I would love to see Adesanya Kelvin Gastelum again, even though Gastelum's obviously coming off a shock first round loss. I don't think anyone would not want to play back those 25 minutes or whatever it was. That was a brilliant first fight. So, but I think you've got to look at the likes of Hermansson, Cannonier, all these guys who are very much knocking on the door. Obviously, the two guys in action this weekend. One of those guys is going to move for the title. The other 3 or 4 would all certainly have their hands up for a potential fight with Adesanya and bounce back.
Alex Bird, all right, fella. Talking about Aljamain Sterling and why Dana White is holding out on guaranteeing him a title shot against Petr Yan. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because for me, he's a shoo-in. He's the guy. Aljamain Sterling is next in line to fight for that title against Petr Yan. For me, it's a great fight, man. Let's make that fight. I know that there's other guys that might be a little bit more exciting in the bantamweight division. Cody's always in exciting fights, whether he's on the receiving end or getting chinned, or whether he's chinning somebody. He's exciting, and maybe more people want to see him do his thing. Sean O'Malley is most certainly the superstar of the division, isn't he? He's the guy that's coming through, that's capturing everybody's imagination. I know he's got a fight coming up. Maybe Dana's waiting to see what he does with that fight. But I think it would be extremely unfair if Aljamain Sterling is not next in line for Petr Yan. But as we know, and we've said it on many different shows that we've done here on BT Sport, the rankings don't mean anything. For anybody getting all giddy about rankings and what runs people are on at this moment, doesn't mean anything. It's what sells. It's what captures your imagination as a fan. What do you want to see?
Yes.
If more fans out there wanted to see Cody Garbrandt fight for a title, you can bet your bottom dollar that the UFC would try and make that fight. But for me, as a fan of this sport, and for what I've seen recently with performances, Aljamain Sterling should be the next guy.
Yeah, it surprised me Dana kind of took that approach. And to be honest, I think he was just testing the water to see what the fans' reaction was, because you better believe as soon as he walked out to that press meeting where he kind of played down Aljo being the next contender, I guarantee the next person he spoke to on the phone would have been Matt Serra, who would have rang Dana straight away and went, hey, come on. My boy is getting, because they're mates, they do the TV show together. Matt Serra and Dana get on like absolutely house on fire. Matt Serra obviously is Aljamain Sterling's coach. You better believe Aljamain Sterling is definitely going to get the next shot at Petr Yan. And you know what? I think it's the best fighter for the division as well, because on paper going into that fight, this during Fight Island, I said, and I maintain it, Aljamain Sterling's body of work was more deserving of a title shot than Petr Yan. But Petr Yan was on fire. There was a lot of questions asked about him. There was, look at his record compared to Aljo's. It's not as strong, wins over the likes of Uriah Faber. And even now, on paper, that win over Jose Aldo, it's easy to play it down. Aldo's had seen better days. He was stronger as a featherweight, all that stuff. I don't believe that narrative.
Aldo was great, man.
I don't believe that narrative anymore because I actually watched the fight. And on paper, it can be very different. The fight itself, Petr Yan was amazing. Jose Aldo absolutely turned up and looked vintage Jose Aldo. And Petr Yan overcome that version of Jose Aldo to get the victory. So he is absolutely the best bantamweight on the planet right now. But listen, don't question it. Aljo's got to be next. He's the guy. And what a fight that will be as well.
Whilst we've got a little bit of a delay, we're waiting for Betcha Carrera at the moment to... Sorry, not Betcha. We're not, actually. We're waiting for Trinaldo. Yeah. Carrera was just on the beach with Vadum enjoying themselves. They've weighed in. They've done well. We're just waiting for Trinaldo to weigh in, the last one to weigh in. Everybody's hit weight so far. The ones that you're all majorly concerned about in the main event, Whittaker and Till both hitting 186. Top stuff. All the Brits coming through as well. Their co-main event is on. We're just waiting for Trinaldo, obviously, who's fighting Jai Herbert to hit the scale. So whilst that's all going on, keep your tweets coming, and we'll keep the narrative of everything that's going on in the UFC right now, and therefore you can join in this conversation. There's a cracker here from Tom. Listen, if you're going to do Fight Island again, surely you have to book Gaethje versus McGregor as the main event in September. There's no point in calling it Fight Island if the biggest name doesn't perform there. Listen, Tom, you're going to be disappointed, brother. You're going to be disappointed. Conor McGregor does not fight behind closed doors. Let me tell you, he is the showman. He is for the big events. And currently, right now, mate, he's retired. That's what he's told everybody. He's chilling, enjoying himself, doing his own thing. Don't get me wrong. I believe that we will see him in the octagon sometime soon. And I've said on the Open Mat show, haven't I, that sometime soon will be when fans are allowed back into big arenas. And when I say big arenas, I mean that big stadium that they've built in Las Vegas that holds about 60,000. You'll hear the Foggy Jew ringing out as the main event that night. Let me tell you, that's when you'll see Conor McGregor again. As for Fight Island, I don't think we'll see Conor. We won't see him fighting behind closed doors. It's not built for him. He's the big show. And regarding Gaethje, let's give Khabib as much time as he needs. Let's give Khabib as much time as he needs. We've all seen that social media post this week where he's paid an unbelievable tribute to his dad. He's going through some stuff at the moment, and for me, give Khabib as much time as possible. Let's not have any talk of any interim fights or anything like that. The division doesn't need to move on. We all know who the next fight is. It's Khabib versus Gaethje when Khabib is ready. And if it's not September, that's cool, man. Yeah. Let that ride out. Just let that ride out. We'll get there eventually. Let the rest of the division fight it out amongst themselves to find out who the legit number one is. I mean, a lot of people right now will probably say Dustin Poirier with the way that he's going about his business. I know he's recently lost to Khabib in Abu Dhabi at UFC 242, but the way that he's going about his business, the way that he fought against Dan Hooker, mate, people are stoked on him again. So maybe he's the guy that is coming through, you know?
Yeah, I like Poirier as a potential opponent for McGregor when the world changes as well. But you're right, let's not take Gaethje's opportunity away. Gaethje versus Khabib should really be the next fight for that lightweight championship belt. And look, Tom's just getting excited. I've just noticed his Twitter handle there. 19th league title this season, Tom, supporting the European, the world, and the English Premier League champions. You're just getting carried away, Tom. You've had enough this year, Tom.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing Tom's dream.
Yeah.
His second dream come true. He's seen one. You've had one, Tom. Stop being so blooming greedy. Clear off. But do keep them coming in. We've got another one here. 7 of Britain's finest competing tomorrow night. How many of them do... Oh, why are you doing this, Lewis? Lewis, mate, they watch the show, right? Lewis, don't do this to us. Don't put us on the spot like this with some of our nearest and dearest. How many of them are going to take the win?
7.
Oh, I knew you'd do that. I knew you'd do that.
All 7, Lewis. No problem.
I'll tell you what I will do, though. I think we will get Brits collecting bonuses tomorrow night. And I'm going to go out there and I think a fight of the night will involve Mike Grundy. I think that fight with Ivaloev is an absolute cracking fight. Yeah. 2 elite level wrestlers. And 9 times out of 10, fingers crossed this happens, when elite level wrestlers come together, they go, you know what you're doing, I know what I'm doing. What's the point? Let's just stand here and have a whack. You know what I mean? We saw it with Usman and Covington, didn't we, at Christmas, and it was absolutely fantastic. And fingers crossed we get that again with those two guys. You can't look away from the main event. The main event will be what it is. You know, I genuinely think it's 50-50. I know a lot of people watching this right now think it's 70-30, which I think is bonkers. It's a 50-50 fight. It's going to be an absolute crackerjack. But I would say out of all the Brits, Grundy will get himself a bonus in that fight of the night with Evaloev. And I've got a funny feeling Jai Herbert's going to do it, man. I think he's going to put on a little bit of performance for us against Trinaldo, if this is anything to go by, because we're waiting for the guy still to make weight.
Yeah. Tom Aspinall, write the check right now. $50,000, Dana. Tom Aspinall, ASPINALL. Simple. Put it in an envelope so it's ready to go. I'm telling you now, don't blink when you see this kid.
What an opportunity for Rhys McKee.
Yeah.
Against Khamzat Chimaev, because every man and his dog's talking about Chimaev right now and his attitude and the record-breaking night that he's about to embark on. But Rhys McKee, last-minute opportunity. He's been given a big chance. I mean, imagine making your debut against this guy.
I know.
On the main card. It's on the main card, the finale of Fight Island. Go and take the opportunity, kid.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you can't turn. It's a brave man that turns the UFC down. And Rhys McKee's, he's only a baby. You know, he's only 22 years of age, but I feel like he's been involved in mixed martial arts for an awful long time. He feels like a veteran, even though he's just a baby. But this is a massive opportunity for him, and everyone's looking past him. Everybody in the world is talking about Chimaev and that impact that he made. And, you know, I know everyone in Sweden is super excited. Obviously, he's from Alexander Gustafsson's All-Stars camp. We're hearing nothing but amazing things. The guy debuts at middleweight, smashes a big, strong middleweight to bits, then stays on Fight Island to fight again in 10 days' time, back down at welterweight, his natural weight division. There's so much...
Look good on the scales earlier. Look good on the scales as well.
Exactly. There's so many eyeballs on Chimaev. It almost feels like Rhys McKee is an add-on. He's just there to play a part. Well, he can shock the world if he puts in a huge performance. You know, and he's made a statement already. 7 days notice, boom, I'm on weight, let's go. Nice and confident, looks good, no excuses, nothing else, just boom, get me over there. It doesn't matter who it is. I've worked hard my entire career to get into the UFC. Now I'm here. I can't start handpicking opponents. When the opportunity comes, he's took it with both hands. And you know what? I could name 24 British fighters that have had opportunities like this in the past that haven't taken it. And then it's either not worked out for them or they've never even got a second phone call. So for Rhys, he's just jumped in there. All credit to him. I just hope he puts in a big performance. Obviously, a win would be sensational, but just even a big performance, just live with Chimaev in this fight will absolutely make his stock go through the roof.
You're watching a live stream of the weigh-ins for Fight Island, the finale, Whittaker versus Till. Everybody's weighed in by Francisco Trinaldo. We're just waiting for him to hit the scales. At the moment, he's taking on Jai Herbert. This is, of course, Dan Hardy's open mat, with me, Adam Catterall, and Nick Peet. And as you can see, Dan Hardy's not here because his Wi-Fi has let him down in his Abu Dhabi hotel. He was here for the first hour, and he must have used all his megabytes. He's used all his data, and he's sadly had to leave us for the final hour. But you're only missing out on that one way in. So we'll keep the narrative going. Keep your tweets and texts coming in about anything UFC related, and we'll try our very best to keep that narrative going. And you can see a question there from Andy on the screen, Nick. What do you think about Jojo bypassing the title fight? Well, my understanding of this is that she's not bypassed a title fight. Shevchenko's injured. We don't know the severity of that injury, do we? We don't know when she's supposed to be back. There was loads of conversations about August, and we don't know where she's at right now. Now, the situation is that on August 1st, Jojo is stepping in to take on Jennifer Maia because Vivi, who's had a terrible time recently, hasn't she? She's obviously she tested positive for COVID-19, so she'd been pulled from that fight. Jojo stuck her hand up and cracked on. Now, we don't know what Jojo's situation is financially. We don't know what her situation is regarding physically, whether she just wants to get back out there and get rid of a lot of ring rust. Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with it. You know, she's took it on very, very short notice, and she is next in line. The fight was there for her with Shevchenko. And this isn't a joke fight, is it? It's not an easy fight. It's a tough fight against Jennifer Maia. But you've got to kind of admire Joanne Calderwood's attitude for wanting to take this on, even though she had a title fight absolutely shooting?
Yeah, the problem you've got there is if you're the number one contender to fight for the title, but the champion is unavailable, it's that catch-22, just sit it out and wait for the champion to get fit to take this shot, or do you take on another top contender to keep yourself nice and sharp? At the end of the day, if JoJo can't beat Jennifer Maia, then she probably isn't going to beat Shevchenko. I'm not saying we've got similar styles, but if you can't beat the girl in the undisputed number one, then you shouldn't be worried about fighting the number 5 or the number 6 or whatever it may be. If you can't beat them, then you certainly ain't going to beat her. So I think JoJo's made the right decision. Keep busy. I follow Shevchenko on social media, and she's just basically on holiday at the moment. She's on. I think she was up at the lake in Las Vegas, and then she was somewhere else. You can see she's on complete downtime right now. She's not even thinking about going back. Yeah, stalker, yeah. But she's not even thinking about going back into a fight camp. JoJo's hungry. She wants to stay sharp. She beats Jennifer Maia, then straight away she's fit, she's strong. When Shevchenko does come back, guess what? No, there's no warm-up fight for Shevchenko. I'm the number one contender. I'm fresh off a win. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
There's a question for you there on the screen. You've been smashing the drum for this narrative for a long period of time. Do you think Adesanya versus Till will be big enough to have a tough series alongside it? That question for you, that isn't it, mate?
Absolutely, Till. That is the statement that I've been saying since day one. Why do a Costa fight when you can do Adesanya versus Till on Tough, 2 coaching corners? Both of them are absolutely brilliant TV. Both of them have got huge momentum. Obviously, Adesanya was New Zealand Sports Person of the Year 2019. He's absolutely got that entire nation supporting him. And you've got Till over in the UK with so much momentum and such a huge social media presence. Both those guys, throw them together in confined quarters with 2 teams around them, a load of fighters trying to fight their way into the UFC. The reason Tough was, without Tough, we probably wouldn't be here now with the UFC. Obviously, it was Tough 1 was what completely turned this business around, this company around. But it got old, it got tired, let's be honest. Some of the shows become a bit of a drag because you were putting square pegs in round holes. For Tough to work, you need 2 captains that are absolutely got the personalities to carry a TV show. And Adesanya and Till have got the personalities.
They're boring. There's no personalities there. They're both boring.
You better believe that would be must-see TV. Do not be surprised if that's what we get. The problem is, obviously, during lockdown, it's pretty much impossible to do something like that at the moment. But I think if Till wins this weekend, if Adesanya beats Costa, then moving into 2021, Tough, I don't know what we're up to now, but Tough 28 or whatever it would be, Tough 50. Adesanya Till would be incredible must-see TV.
Speaking of personalities, I'm a little bit disappointed actually with the UFC and their marketing. Normally they're on point, aren't they? As you can see, I'm sporting one of the Fight Island t-shirts there. And they've obviously got several of these out. And I know that loads of people have purchased those types of things. And they do extremely well when it comes to marketing and branding. Where are the official Whittaker Till chips and dips? I'm very disappointed. I thought I've been online, I've been looking, mate. There's nothing there for me.
They couldn't send me any t-shirts because they don't do adult sizes. They're just juniors, apparently.
Yeah, I'm still in the baby sizes. Sean's been on our social media. Thanks for this, Sean. For those, by the way, that are just tuning into this stream of the weigh-ins, we're just waiting for Francisco Trinaldo, who's fighting Jai Herbert.
Here we go.
There's a little bit of movement here, actually. We might be on. Don't get too excited. They've been doing this to us for the last 10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, our last fighter to the lightweight division, Francisco Trinaldo.
Here we go. Francisco is obviously taking on Jai Herbert. This is big because for him to wait an hour and a half into this weigh-in, to then come down here.
He's walking very slowly, isn't he?
Extremely slowly. I mean, don't forget, this geezer is 41 years of age. He's been there, done it, got the T-shirt, cutting weight at his age. And that's no disrespect to him. He's an elite level athlete, but the body waits for no man. Yeah. So let's see where he's at. There's a struggle.
160 pounds, the official weight for Francisco
Whoa.
Trinaldo.
Whoa!
4 pounds over. Interesting.
That's not a miss, mate. Is it? If he's been baking himself for the last an hour and a half, at least, and obviously all overnight as well and all this morning, because don't forget, this is local time Abu Dhabi.
5-6 p.m.
3 hours on.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 hours. You're 3 hours on from now where we are in the UK. So this is a daytime cut, and he's overweight like that. He will have been cooking himself for a long period of time to get himself down to that. And he's decided with him and his team, no more. We're not doing any more. Wow, man.
Yeah, so there's a big question now, obviously gets asked to Jai Herbert's team. Your opponent's weighed in 4 pounds over the allotted weight. You can see him there just trying to get fuel back on. You know, he probably hasn't had a liquid past his lips for the last 48 hours. So they'll go to Jai Herbert now. I'm sure Jai will probably take the fight anyway. He will get, I think because it's more than £3, I think he'll get 30% of Trinaldo's purse, which when you're a veteran like Trinaldo, who's probably on really strong money, that'll probably double what Jai Herbert was going to earn anyway. But it's more than anything else. Listen, it's not necessarily about the money at this stage. It's more about the fact that Trinaldo is an hour and a half late onto the scales. He's got there. He's 4 pounds overweight. He's obviously struggling like hell. That 41-year-old body just hasn't wanted to let go of that last bit of water. And right now, he's going to struggle to be back at 100% for tomorrow night. And that could potentially play into how Jai Herbert and his team even approach their fight with their game plan. You know, get Trinaldo deep into that second and third round and then put the pressure on. Wouldn't be surprised if you see Jai just have a little look at him early on, because Trinaldo's not going to have the gas tank to work right the way through, not if he's struggling like that.
So there you have it. Everybody's hit the scale. Francisco Trinaldo missed weight by a good 4 pounds. He's taking on Jai Herbert. It's the last one on the prelims. Jai Herbert's UFC debut. There's not a cat in hell's chance that he's going to renege on that fight. They'll just obviously thrash out some type of negotiation now over the next hour or two of how that fight goes ahead. And it looks like we're going to get a record-breaking evening. First time since UFC 2 in 1994 that we're going to get 15 bouts on one UFC card. It's going to be a long one. You're going to need the chips and dips. You might need a little bit of coffee to come and join us from 11 o'clock on BT Sport. Should be an absolute cracker. Loads of British action as well. Guys involved in potential fight of the nights. We mentioned Grundy and Ivaloev. Should be an absolute cracker. Reece McKee coming in last minute to take on Khamzat Chimaev. We've got the old guard as well. Shogun against Lil Nog in the co-main event. And then do not forget as well that heavyweight debut from Alex Gustafsson against Fabrizio Verdum. But, as you know, and as my scout's little mate knows in the bottom corner of this screen, it is all about one fight. The main event, Robert Whittaker taking on Darren Till, of which we have kind of classed as an unofficial eliminator for the next in line at the middleweight title. Should be fireworks to finish off as a finale here on Fight Island. Thank you very much for watching us here on the BT Sports stream. Come and join us tomorrow night, 11 o'clock. It all goes down.